All right, shout out to Natalie in period one for sending me this question. Great question. Um, let's walk through it really quickly. But just to let you know, we're working on 6TT. This is a graded skill from last unit. So this explanation should be relevant to anybody who wants to boost their grade in this class. This is one of the most important things I'll teach in 7th grade math, which is how to graph a solution to a two-step inequality. So this right here is what we're working with, 5c minus 2 greater than 8. And if you remember, the way to solve this is to do this two-step inverse operation. An inverse operation means do the opposite math operation. And remember, an operation is multiplication, division, addition, and subtraction to both sides. So we're going to do the opposite math operation to both sides of the inequality, and we have to do it 2 times. It's a two-stepper. So we're going to do 2 inverse operations. So what is our first inverse operation? Okay, the first inverse operation is to remove the constant. That's this minus 2 right here. This is the constant. So how do we do that? We do an inverse operation. So we have 5c minus 2 greater than 8. So let me switch my color here. Let's get some blue. So what is the opposite math operation for minus 2? It's plus 2. Minus 2, plus 2. And you have to do it to both sides. So what's good for one side of the equation, you got to do it to the other. When this happens, the minus 2 plus 2 just cancels out to 0, and 8 plus 2 gets you 10. So now what you've done is you've simplified this inequality to just 5c greater than 10. And that's a lot easier to work with. So we did the first step, which is to remove the constant, and we got things down to 5c greater than 10. So our second step is to do the inverse operation on the coefficient. So let's call it simplify the coefficient. I didn't spell coefficient right, but you get the idea. Remember, the coefficient is the number that is next to the variable. The number next to the variable. Sometimes it's underneath the variable, sometimes it's right next to it, but there's math happening right here. Switch to green. Right in between, when you have 5c, that's really 5 times c. The variable c, that's a number, and there's math, 5 times c. So if we are left with 5c greater than 10, and we're going to simplify this coefficient, we're going to do the opposite math, right? Just like we did above. The opposite of subtracting 2 was adding 2. So the opposite of 5 times c, right there, is to divide both sides by 5. So we're going to do the opposite math. The opposite of multiplication is division. And when you do that, the 5s cancel each other out, and you're just left with C. And 10 divided by 5 is just 2. So you're left with 5 greater than 2. And there you have now solved this inequality for the variable C. Boom. So that is the first step in solving this. Now, you have to do something else because it's asking you to graph this solution on a number line. So remember, you've simplified it and you've solved for C. So you've got C is greater than 2. I'm going to close this one out. I'm going to reopen it and show you how to actually graph it now. Let's see. Give me a screenshot once again. There we have it. Let's shrink this down, zoom out. That's good. Let's move this over into the screen. Here we go. And let's get me a color. We're right back. So remember, we got this and we simplified it using our two-step inverse operation, and we're left with C greater than 10. Oh, sorry. C greater than 2. What that means is any number that's bigger than 2, like 2.1, 2.00000001, like 3, like 4, etc. When you plug those numbers back in here for the variable C, any number that's bigger than 2, when you multiply it by 5 and you take 2 away from it, you'll always get a number that is greater than 8. That's what this means. And so how do you show that on a number line? So here's your number line. Well, C greater than 2, I'm going to take the 2 and I'm going to put a circle right here above the 2. And then I know it's greater, any number greater than 2. And so we said 2.1 works, 2.000001 works, 3 works, 4 works, etc. Any number bigger. So I'm going to draw the ray going to the right with an arrowhead. And what this line represents are all the numbers right here. These are all numbers that are bigger than the number 2. Okay? So I leave this as an open circle. If I drew a closed-in circle, that would include the number 2. An open circle does not include the number 2 in the answer set. Open circle. So any number that is greater than 2, but not including the number 2, that's what this open circle is, and that is your solution. That's how you graph it. Hopefully that helped. Thank you, Natalie, again. We'll say thank you at Nat Mo from period 1-2. Great question. Keep it up. 6TT is a super important skill. Everybody else, if you're out there, if you've got questions about 6TT, take a screenshot, send it to me and remind. Thank you, Natalie.